That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Ramey. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. If you're looking for ways to quit drinking, become a better father, a better husband, a better entrepreneur, friend, you got goals you want to set and meet, accountability, all that stuff. We have lots of options for you. You can check out our courses, mastermind groups, and one-on-one coaching options by going to thatsoberguy.com. You can also book a 30-minute strategy session with me, and we can talk about your goals. I can answer any questions that you might have, and we can see what program, what options might fit best for you and your current situation. I love helping dudes out there. Obviously, quit drinking alcohol, but find that purpose that all of us are looking for. So if you want to do that, once again, all those resources at thatsoberguy.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram as well at That Sober Guy Podcast. All the links from today's show will be in the show notes, so they're very easy for you to find. And with that, I'm nursing a little bit of a slight cold, just a little bit of scratchiness in the throat, so excuse me if I got to hit the cough button or my voice sounds extra raspy and scratchy today. We're going to start this episode with the title, From Hangovers to Hustle, Transforming Your Life Through Entrepreneurship. And I should put podcasting as a caveat on the end of that as well. And this is a really exciting topic for me to talk about. I want to share a little bit about my own experience here, as well as how entrepreneurship, thinking outside the box, finding purpose, being driven, all of that can help you not only quit alcohol, but really make some improvements and advancements in your life as a parent, as a husband or a wife, and just as a person trying to make a difference and trying to do better in life. Just be a better version of yourself. And all of that for me really started with surrendering to something higher. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. First, before we do that, I want to do sober shout outs today. We have a few people who wrote in. If you want to write in and share, if you have a sobriety date coming up, as a matter of fact, I got 11 years coming up on September 11th. I just realized. So that is next week as this one goes live. Next week's podcast will be 11 years on the 11th. So it's pretty awesome. But let's say that's you and you're celebrating 4 years coming up, or you're celebrating 4 days, or you're celebrating 4 months, whatever it is. If you want to send us an email, sobriety@thatsoberguy.com, just put in the subject line, Sober Shoutouts, and write us a little note. Tell us how long you've been alcohol free for, what that looks like for you. And we'd love to read those on the show at the beginning of each month. So today, first up is Mike from Sacramento. Mike says 6 years sober for me and my wife this week, and you've been an inspiration, and we just greatly appreciate it. So Mike, congratulations, sir. Pretty awesome right there. I'm going to just leave the clapping out. It's still really long. Listen to that. Mike, they're still going for you, bro. Okay, no, they're done. I tried that. We're going to leave that alone. But man, thank you for writing in, dude. Congrats again on 6 years. That's freaking amazing. And keep up the great work and keep listening, man. I appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Jeff celebrating 5 years. 5 years, Jeff. Congratulations on the big 5. I remember hitting 5 years and just like it's kind of a staple, 5 years. That's a solid number. He also says, keep making your podcast. It helped me tremendously when I started on this journey, and I still listen today. So Jeff, thank you so much, man. Appreciate your support. I'm so happy to know that the podcast has served both you and Mike and Mike's wife. 6 years, 5 years, a total of 11 together. That's pretty awesome. So Jeff, thanks again, man. Also, we have Darren, man. I love Darren. Darren's in our Sober Guy men's group on Locals, which soon to be will be transitioning over to our own community on the Sober Guy platform, which I'm really excited about, and I'll be announcing that soon. So it'll be the same type of concept, men's group. Lots of dudes in there from all over the place. Trying to get the dudes to talk more, though, man. I gotta say, I met with a new client today, and I was explaining to him, some of the things that we're going to, set goals for and accountability and work through. And one of those things was being a part of the men's group. And I was just trying to be honest with him. Like, we have over 800 men from all over the place in the Sober Guy men's group. And literally only probably a handful are very active on there. Every once in a while we'll get, different folks chiming in here and there, but men are just, we don't talk about stuff, I noticed. And even prompting, different, hey, how, check-ins or whatever. And sometimes we do. And for those of you who do respond and are active in there, I appreciate you guys. And you know who you are because you're posting in there too. But I just want to encourage you, if you're in the men's group and you're not, man, post in there, feel free, like talk a little bit, share, add pictures or, what your workout is, whatever it is. And I try to impromptu some of that stuff as well. But and then if you're not in the Sober Guy men's group, if you just go to thatsoberguy.com, you can find it on there and you can figure out how to join. It's really easy and you can jump in and be a part of it. We'd love to have you. But Darren the Barber out in Boston has been in the group for, over a year at least. And he's celebrating 18 months or just celebrated 18 months. So shout out to Darren. Appreciate you, bro. And like I said, man, if I ever get the chance to come out to Boston, there's two things I'm going to do. The first one is go to Fenway and go to a Boston Red Sox game. And the second one is come get faded up by Darren the Barber at his barbershop. So super pumped on that. So Darren, thank you, man. And then last but not least, this is for another client of mine, Dave from Santa Rosa, just celebrating 30 days. So proud of him and so stoked for him. So Dave, man, you're doing great. Keep up the great work. I've really enjoyed working together with you. And it's been awesome to see you making some progress and working through some of these things that all of us men, struggle with at times at different points in our life. So appreciate you, man, and congratulations on 30 days. Let's keep going. And I'm excited for our next session. All right, from hangovers to hustle. One more time, actually, before I go into that, one more thing. If you do want to, just want to remind you one more time, sobriety at thatsoberguy.com. You can share your sobriety date. Just put in the subject line, Sober Shoutouts. Also, at the end of each month, we'll be doing an Ask Me Anything episode, which is you can write in and ask any questions. I'll usually make an Instagram post or a post in the men's group about that as well to remind. But if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I got a question for Shane or one of his prior guests or something, you can email us sobriety at thatsoberguy.com one more time and just put in the subject line, ask me anything, and then throw your question or a couple questions in there. Be happy to get to those. Excuse me. Nursing that little bit of a cough today. But we'd be happy to get to that in that Ask Me Anything episode. So, okay, let's try that again. One more time. From hangovers to hustle, transitioning your life through entrepreneurship with the caveat of podcasting. So let's talk about this. What does this look like today? I got a cough real quick, so I'm going to mute this. Oh, good Lord. That's a rough one today. It's still marinating in the chest there. Jess got me on all the take your vitamin C and you're going to take your oregano pills and you're going to drink lots of water. I don't know why I'm always so resistant to it either. She has all the magic to help me, but I'm just too stubborn. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll just tough it out and cough and sound like freaking raspy wrestler guy. It's not that bad, but it's pretty bad some days, but I got to listen to her more. She's usually right anyways. All right. What are we talking about here? From hangovers to hustle. What does that even mean? What does that look like? And I guess, like it's pretty much speaks for itself. I was hungover all the time and I got the urge and the conviction to quit and to go down a new path. So I really love to see other men, being leaders in their families, being leaders in their marriages, being leaders in being dads, in their businesses, in entrepreneurship. All of that is something that I really enjoy to do. Coaching, just talking to guys on the podcast. Eventually we have a episode with Mike Diamond coming up. I believe that'll drop next week. And he was on A&E's Intervention and just got a crazy story and a bunch of good stuff to share. So I get to talk to all kinds of different people. And I have gotten to talk to all kinds of different people over the years and just hear so much of heartbreak and failure. And then right next to that, so much glory and success, in overcoming all of the failures and all of the hurts and all of the addictions. And man, it's a wild ride. And so for me to go through a lot of that in my own experience, with what I went through, and then to share that with other people and hear their stuff too, I just really have just a really big place in my heart to see men come to God, number one, and find that spiritual relationship, whatever that looks like for you. But then also, obviously, cut out alcohol, find that sober-minded mentality, and then, man, just do life and be the best version of yourself. And I think for me, entrepreneurship, podcasting, just this whole new setup was just such a huge part for me. And so that's kind of where we're going to go with this today. And I want to share how that might be able to help you as well, and what ideas you might have to spark. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, maybe you're just at a job and you're with a company. I was in that same boat, and I'm going to share how I created my own job within that in just a few minutes here. But man, the impact of alcohol on your life and on your career is, it's devastating at times. It really is. It can negatively impact your personal health, your relationships, your marriage, your ability to be a good parent to your kids. And then not only that, your career. How many times have we seen, and I'll give an example in the music business, and obviously this is a pretty common one, but this goes throughout every business, construction, finance, everything. The devastating effects that alcohol has on somebody's career. And if we go back to the music business thing, how many musicians have we seen either destroy their lives or tragically they lose their life because of alcohol, because of drugs, because of addiction, because of bad decisions? It's really a sad thing. And you see that, like I said, you see it in construction, you see doctors, struggle with it. It doesn't discriminate. You see men and women in banking, in finance, in healthcare. I mean, go down the list of things. Entrepreneurs. It's all over the place. And so, for me, early on, I was in construction. When I really was kind of in the heat of the moment of my own alcoholism. I was out of shape. I was in my, mid-20s, which kind of strung out into my early 30s. I was very unhealthy. I was skinny fat. Do you remember that? Have you ever seen a skinny fat guy? Yeah, I was skinny fat at that. I was in the worst shape of my life. I was not happy. My marriage was not great. Both Jess and I could only connect through, through alcohol, really, through going out, through partying. That was really the only way we knew how to be with each other, how to conversate. And so there wasn't any authenticity there because it was always influenced by a substance. So not only did I not really know myself, I wasn't able to, get to know Jess, who I've known since 7th grade anyways, but still, as you grow and you get older, you change and you grow, and hopefully you grow closer and stronger and all that. But alcohol and drugs at that time was not allowing us to do that. I was also miserable at my job. I was a union taper, in my mid-20s. I was making okay money at that time, but that really didn't matter because I was spending most of it on crap and alcohol and other stuff. At the same time, we were behind on all of our bills. That was pretty rough. I was drinking every day. I ended up getting a new job in the mailroom with a really large energy company out of California. I went back down to making like $15 an hour. And this was kind of at the tail end of my drinking career. And man, I think just to sum it up with one word was just miserable. I was a miserable son of a bitch in my own skin. I just couldn't get over the fact of myself, and it was my own issue. And so what did I do? I just kept drinking about it. I eventually found myself not even able to go to work without being intoxicated. I literally could not handle life. We were getting evicted, like bills were not paid, no money. Just stress. That's another just word that comes to mind. Just stress, man. And I was literally becoming everything that I never wanted to be. Everything I never wanted to be. Everything I imagined that I would be, I wasn't. And everything I never wanted to do in my life, I was doing. And I was completely lost. And man, it was a really, really, really dark place to be in. And thankfully, by the grace of God, I was able to kind of pull myself up and go have this spiritual awakening one day, and go, man, I want to make some changes in my life. And I not only do I want to, I need to, or I'm probably gonna not be here very much longer, because I was going through some pretty dark stuff. But man, so where am I going with that? I kind of wanted to set the tone a little bit for the different stages throughout some of us struggle with alcohol. Let's just keep it at that too. And everyone's story's a little bit different, right? Some of us haven't been that low. Some of us have been way lower. Like some of us have been in jail. Some of us, almost died. Some of us, like including myself, have had a lot of friends and family affected in either, physically, emotionally, spiritually by alcohol, drugs, or they've died. And so we see kind of the different levels of this. Like I said before, it doesn't discriminate. But when you start putting all this together, and just as I described, and I guess kind of to wrap that back around, where I was going is I was just the worst version of myself. And I didn't want to be the worst version of myself. I wanted to be the best version of myself. I just didn't know, what to do. I did not know how to get there. The drinking really did lead to my motivation just being crushed. My ambition was crushed. And that led to a lot of missed opportunities as well. My performance at work was not very good. I was starting to, like I said, I was really unhealthy. I was skinny fat. My relationships were jacked up. Just a lot of, I could keep going all day. I'm going to stop there, but just a lot of negativity and just a really bad place to be. And from a work perspective, just because we're talking about, entrepreneurship, work, how do we become, better at that point once we cut out alcohol? When I was taping, like I said, I was miserable. We'd show up to the job. I remember my buddy Justin, we'd commute together, and there was many mornings we'd pull up and I'd go, yeah, maybe we'll get there and the building will be on fire. And it was kind of funny. We'd always joke about it, but I was serious. Like, I hated going to work. And nobody, most people don't do cartwheels when they got to go to work. But if you enjoy somewhat what you're doing and you have a passion for it, it's quite a bit better to show up and do something that you feel like is purposeful. And I definitely didn't feel like that at the time. And then there was another time too, when I was interviewing for a job when I was working in the mailroom. I was trying to get on a day shift, and I showed up drunk to the interview. I couldn't. And I remember driving to work that day, going, "Okay, I got this big interview. I really want to be successful at this. I want to get on a day shift, and I'm not gonna drink or whatever." And I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I showed up intoxicated, and man, it was not good. Didn't go well. Didn't get the job. Ambition crushed again. Missed opportunities. Blamed it on the guy who was an asshole and blah, blah, blah. And he didn't, but ultimately it was my fault. I didn't set myself up for success. So at some point you got to recognize, like, wow, like I need to make some changes here. And not after that interview thing, was shortly after that. And then my buddy, Chris Elliott, from Chemical Diet, was a longtime friend. We made a lot of music together. He got in a terrible accident, almost died. Was in a coma for 52 days. And that was a big wake up call for me as well, where I said, wow, like, thank God Chris is still alive. Thank God I still do have a job, but I'm real close to being on the other ends of the spectrum on both of those, in my own right. So something has to change, So I decided to start kind of thinking about that. What does that look like? Do I need to reach out and get some help? Do I need to go to some meetings? Do I need to find a mentor, a coach? Do I need to go to church? What is God, are you there? That was one of the things for me. Like, I was raised Catholic, and I always known, I've always had that connection to God even as a kid. But as I kind of strayed away through my teens and 20s and early 30s, I felt pretty lost in that. And that was a big reason. I felt something tugging at my heart. I felt God saying, like, Shane, I have something more for you. There's something purposeful that I have for you in being a dad and being a husband and, trying to be of service to others. And I could feel it. And I needed to reach out and I needed to surrender to that. And ultimately that is what I did. But there was a lot of fear in that. There's a lot of challenges that go along with that. Social pressure, how am I going to operate in my group of friends? How am I going to, still be active and social and have some sort of life, and go out and do things without alcohol? It was completely foreign to me. I'd never done that before. So there was a lot of fear behind that. There's also a lot of stress. Like, how am I going to deal with stress? How am I going to deal with boredom? I like to just escape and get jacked up and float away, and I did, at least. And I still occasionally have those thoughts, if I'm honest with you and honest with myself. Even after coming up on 11 years, there are times where I have to be careful. I'm like, man, I wish I could just like not be here right now, like mentally, and just escape. And, so those things are there, those worries, those fears, they're normal. If you're experiencing any of those I just described, they're normal. You're not weird. And at the same time, like, the other side of that coin is like, man, I have goals. Like, I know there's a purpose for my life. Like, I want to start a business. I want to move up in the company. Like, I want to be a better father. I want to work on my marriage. Like, I want to go to church. I want to be part of a group. Like, all those things were also thoughts, so you have this conflicting nature, this battle going on inside your head. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they don't understand that because they're not in your head. And so you have to start working some of that stuff out. And the best way to do it is talking about it with others, whether it be in a group setting or a one-on-one. Maybe it's, therapy, like I said, mentorship, coaching, in a 12-step group, in a men's group at church. Like, you got tons of different options. So what are some, I'm just going to go over these really briefly, some of the steps to starting to think about giving up alcohol. Like, you got to set clear goals. They have to be, like, for instance, a clear goal would be 30 days. I'm going to go 30 days without drinking. We have the 30-day challenge on soberguy.com. There's lots of other ways and options out there as well. Or maybe it's 10 days. You want to even put it shorter. I'm going to go 1 week, or 10 days without drinking. So you got to start somewhere and you got to have a goal. You also, with that, you need to seek some support in that. So do you have an accountability partner? Do you have somebody, some group? I've already mentioned groups and all the, support stuff. So it's something along those lines. You have to be accountable because most of us aren't accountable to just ourselves. It's just in our human nature. It's really hard to do that. You have to be really trained in that. And it takes a long time. And even after a long time, sometimes it doesn't work. And then developing daily habits, like daily routines. A lot of those routines that we've had for so long were, we work hard and then we get home and then we drink because that's what we want to do. We want to get jacked up and I worked a long day. I deserve, that reward system thing. So we have to kind of change those habits. We have to change those routines. You have to do things in a positive perspective. Maybe it's exercise and fitness. I know that's huge for me. I'm 43. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm in way better shape than I was when I was skinny fat in my 20s and early 30s. And that's a huge part of my lifestyle. It's a huge part of my day. I try to get to the gym or at least a walk, almost every day, maybe minus on the weekends. Sundays, I'm usually, chilling. But for the most part, it's a big part. That was a big change for me. Like, also, what kind of hobbies do you do? Do you have something that's challenging that you can take up? I just met with somebody today talking about, what are some of the things that you can do as a hobby? And maybe it's like picking up the guitar and, okay, I want to learn to play the guitar. I've always wanted to do that. You have something that you're working towards. You have something that you enjoy to do. You're changing those routines. So instead of going and sitting down and, coming home and doing nothing, sitting on the couch and popping a beer, hey, I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to hit the gym and then I'm going to come home, eat some dinner, after I put the kids down or whatever your situation looks like, I'm going to take 30 minutes and try to learn a couple new chords on the guitar and stay focused on that. So hobbies, exercise, fitness, also being around other sober environments, alcohol-free environments. And where do you find that? You usually find it at either 12-step meetings. You can find it in men's groups. You can find it in our Sober Guy men's group. You can find it all over the place if you actively go look for it and actively get plugged in and you start to meet people. And man, it's amazing what happens when you fully commit to that. So let's kind of shift gears here and talk a little bit about business, entrepreneurship, like how that kind of plays into this. What do you love to do? I think that's important to ask yourself. And maybe you can take a pen and a paper and you put it on there and you go, okay, like what are the top 5 things that I really enjoy to do, or the top 3 things? And excuse me, sorry about that. What are those? And could they potentially translate into a hobby, into a small business, into a side hustle, something that I can do to find purpose, and maybe, and hopefully it's something that you like to do that it helps even more if it's something of service. For me, I was commuting, man, I gotta get that one, under wraps here, but I was commuting and I had my little Chevy S10, stick shift. I was commuting like a total of 4 hours a day, man. It was a long day. And a friend of mine, Justin, same Justin I talked about earlier that I was taping with, he goes, and I was just a couple months sober at the time, and I was really working hard to try to stay off the sauce. And, I was maybe 60 days in or something. And Justin said, he goes, hey, do you listen to any podcasts? And I said, like, well, what's a podcast? I didn't really know what it was at the time. This was back in 2013, 2014. And he goes, man, check out the new man. Check out the new man, this guy, Trip Lanier. He's awesome, man. You really like him. So I'm like, okay. So, I figure out how to put a podcast on and what a podcast is. And I find this show, The New Man, and man, like Trips, I'm like listening to him every morning and every drive home for weeks. And he's just the coolest dude. And he's so inspiring. And he's just talking about being a better version of self and entrepreneurship and, just, how do we be better men just overall? And so it was so inspiring. And, long story short, I listened to that, and that was a huge piece. And I've talked to Trip quite a few times. He's been on the show a couple of times, which is great. I've been on The New Man. That was like a goal too. Like I'm listening to this podcast, and within a couple of years, I actually was on his podcast sharing my story, which was pretty awesome. And just a really cool experience just because he was such a big part of it. But that led to launching Sober Guy eventually, in 2014. And so what that also led to was creating a podcast platform within a Fortune 250 company. And I literally created my own role within the company, doing communications, doing podcasting and customer service and operations and support. And just, man, I was the only guy on my team without a college degree, so there was like, and I never would have done that and continue to do any of that and continue to do what I do today. If number one, I didn't quit drinking, number one, but also if I didn't have something more purposeful that I knew was driving me, and what that driving force was. And so tapping into that is what I really love to help other dudes do, because it's so possible. And God I literally 100% believe that God has a wonderful plan for each and every one of our lives. And it just takes surrendering to him and surrendering the worldly things and understanding that, it's possible. It's possible when we get out of self. So just to ask yourself again, like, what do you like to do? What are you good at? Could you potentially, could that potentially be a side business, a small business, a side business, something that you create? Or is there something you can create or maybe already within the company that you work for? Just like I did inside of a huge, massive company, created your own position for that. So Let's see. Also, what else did I have here? I had some other notes here. Your energy and focus, that just increased tenfold once I got once I kind of thawed out, once the brain thawed out. So what are some of those success stories? I just shared a couple with you, but there's a lot of them who've been on this podcast many times, who've, given up alcohol, found a different path. They became successful entrepreneurs. Matt Gannum from Aftermath Treatments, one of them, he's been on the podcast. I always see him on Instagram. He's always doing something crazy with, work and helping people. Brandon Stump from Ohio House. He was just really jacked up at one point in his life, but totally turned it around, started treatment centers. Now he has a business in sports management, managing pro athletes' careers. I think it's called CTB Athletics. And then how many different podcasters are helping change people's lives, like Jason LaChance from Knocking Doors Down. He's been on the podcast before. Just a great dude. Or authors like Ken Middleton. He's the author of Bamboozled, been on the show before too. And those are just a few, just a small few of the so many other people out there, men and women, who've been on Sober Guy, who are not been on Sober Guy, who are out there making a difference, through their own experience, sharing their story, being entrepreneurs, making, big changes in their own life to go on and help other people. So sobriety really brings a whole new level to the game of life. And I can't remember who I said this to the other day, someone I was texting back and forth with, but I am really genuinely excited every day. And I used to hate waking up every day. I used to just pray, that God might just take me out because I didn't want to wake up that day. I don't do that anymore. Haven't done that in a long time. I'm genuinely excited to wake up and see what God has planned for the day. Who can I help? What can I do today? What more can I, how can I sit and be closer to God too? That's an honest question that I, do ask myself, because that is a daily battle. Living in the world and knowing that I'm not of this world is a daily battle. And I know that might sound crazy to some, but I'm either batshit crazy or I'm 100% right. And I'm just going to take my chances there. So it really does bring a whole new, perspective and everything. And it's exciting. So I hope that something spoke to you today. I hope this made a little bit of sense. Maybe you got a little something out of it, a little motivation. There's definitely opportunities out there. You can quit alcohol. You can cut that out of your life and you can go down a new path. It's totally possible to have fun, to be yourself, to find yourself, to do all those things and really have a great path forward to doing that. So if you need help, just please reach out. Don't sit in silence. It's one of the worst things. You're not alone in this, and there's lots of help out there. You can go to thatsoberguy.com if you have more questions. You can schedule a strategy call with me. I'd love to chat with you, hear about what your goals are, how I might be able to help. And I just appreciate you tuning in today, and share the podcast with a friend. Hope something spoke to you. Peace, love, and respect. Keep your blood clean.